Okay, thank you all so much for tuning in today. I am really excited to dive in this office hours, all about how we can establish ourselves as an authority through writing and self-publishing a book. So before we officially begin, I wanted to share a bit of background information on our esteemed expert. Meredith is an entrepreneur, community leader, and outdoor adventurer. She is the co-founder of Learn Grant Writing, an online professional development program for aspiring grant writers. Her expertise has been featured in Fast Company, and her book, How to Write a Grant, Become a Grant Writing Unicorn, is a #1 bestseller for nonprofit fundraising and grants on Amazon. Meredith has secured over $42 million in grant funding, and her students have secured over $250 million, a number that grows daily. So with that, I will hand it over to you, Meredith. We are so excited to learn from your expertise today. Thank you for investing in the D&D collective in this way.
Absolutely. Yeehaw, let's go. All right, everybody, if you want to throw in the chat box, just because I can moderately do two things at once, I would like to know if you have written a book, or if you haven't, if you want to, and maybe the general subject, and then that'll help me because I have a couple of things, resources we can bring up later. All right, so what we're covering today: how to write a book in 1 week, 7 days or less. That's the challenge. Launching your book successfully, and the ongoing book promotion, which I'm still figuring out. So if you think about your business as sending a customer through an ascension ladder, this is the context I'm thinking about mine. So Morgan, you just said that you're doing a fiction book. So obviously this is a little bit of a different conversation for you, because that kind of is the end goal. But just since I'm using mine as a business tool, that's the perspective that I'll be sharing. So, my customers find me usually on SEO, then they come onto the page and maybe, take a free mini course or free audiobook. But another place that they actually start like really spending money, or they'll find us in the first place, is with the book. When people want to learn something, they often want to start with the book first before they go into something more detailed. So this book has been a way to really establish authority as a course creator and literally pay for my marketing costs, right? Like it's helping me find people, and they're paying me to find them, basically. And then they can sign up for the Grant Writing Unicorn Collective if they choose. So let's see if it'll let me through. So let's talk about how you write this bad boy in the first place. So location is everything. I found that I could not do my regular day-to-day and then also switch gears and write a book. So I'm a big advocate that you go rent an Airbnb. I was in Alaska. The first book I wrote, I went to this little cabin that a friend lent me, blocked everything out. It was just me and that book, and nothing else, right? Preferably you don't even have Wi-Fi. I don't know if this is going to work, but we'll play it. This was the messy video I made for the last book I wrote, which is in April. Let's see if it will. So this was like a standard template. It's so cheesy. So you get the idea. I basically went to this super pretty place in Alaska, Sitka. It was gorgeous. It has known for its Tlingit culture. So it has these beautiful totem poles, which you saw. And I basically just hiked and wrote a book. Hiked, right. So that's, oops, nope, we don't need that again. So that's a big piece of making this work, is that you can't expect yourself to write a book, which is a very different side of your brain, and then also just do your normal life. So if you're going to commit to writing a book, it needs to be like, this is my 7-day challenge to do it, right? One of the questions that came through was about book structure. So I can't speak to fiction books, but if you are doing a book as a lead magnet of sorts for your business, one of the ways I was advised to do that is to structure it where you have the top 10 questions that you're asked most often, and then you follow that with the 10 questions you wish your customers were asking, or 5 and 5, right? So 5 and 5 or 10 and 10. So if you look, I should have brought my book. I didn't bring it though to Nashville, but basically the reason we're doing this is like, I'm addressing what their questions are in order that they're coming up with them. But then I'm also able to like tie in what I know they need to know. And your first chapter has to be like so valuable that if they don't read anything else but your first chapter, they think they got their money worth. So for me, I summarize literally how to write grants in 7 steps in the first chapter and use that as a free giveaway all the time. And that's also what's going to be visible, you know, when you look at a book and you read the first couple pages and you decide if you'll buy it or not. So this is the structure for at least using it in like a how-to format. Then step 1 is outlining and recording. So I'm a big fan of just roughly outlining it all in pen and paper. Fireplace is definitely a bonus to doing this. I wrote really late at night. Then audio recording. So literally I just took my phone, spoke decently, slowly, and clearly, right, into it, the concepts that I wanted to write, had those converted in Temi. We use Temi all the time to transcribe it. And then once it was done, that was done. And it's so much easier to edit. So the first time I did this book was in April of 2019. And my boyfriend and his twin brother actually are software engineers, and they coded me a custom script. They didn't realize that I could actually just do a service online, but so whatever, they built it for me, and this is how it would come back, right? It's just kind of a messy paragraph. Now it's a lot. The technology is definitely improving in the last couple of years, but this, even though it's a mess, is so much easier to work with than a blank page. So if you do yourself one huge favor, it's do not try to write your book. Talk it out, record it, and then transcribe it. It's so much faster. Each chapter in the original book took 1.5 to 2.5 hours from idea to scripting it to a complete draft that I sent to someone for review. That's crazy. That's fast. So I would then, like, everything about this first book is hilarious that it worked out as well as it did, because I was literally just winging it. So I would make these cheesy, I'd walk to this tiny little cafe that was only open 2 days a week, but I could get Wi-Fi there. And I'd make a little video like, this is how it's going. This is what I'm doing. I need some editors. And I would just like shared this on my personal Facebook page, and I think via email, and people were like, I'll take a chapter. So I ended up sending out 1 or 2 chapters to like 8 different people that all would do their part to kind of help me see the holes, the gaps, then send it back, and I could go work on it more. So there was something about how like sort of messy and organic this was that I didn't realize at the time, but was actually really, really, really going to serve me later on. And you'll see why. Step 2 was hiring an actual editor. Nothing is more off-putting than a book that has any sort of grammatical errors. And now that the bar is so low to self-publish, it's happening. And I think it's massively undermining to your credibility. So pay for the editor. The first gal I worked with was Elena Hartford. She did a great job. And then Anna Nelson was in my program, and she did my second book. Both were amazing. Now, this is an area that you can get a little bit lost on the internet if you Google how to get your ISBNs and barcodes. So first of all, what are those? So the ISBN is like the identity, the individual number that your book gets, and every book has to have its own number. The barcode is obviously the barcode that's on the back, and it has the ISBN and also has the book pricing, which you usually just want to set the book pricing to 90,000, which means no pricing. That is that number means no pricing, which is good because you always want to experiment. You don't want to have to commit to pricing. So you will get offered to buy a barcode or your ISBNs through Amazon or through Ingram Spark. But when you do that, and they'll give them for free. So you're like, oh, cool. How nice of Amazon. No, it's so that you then can't sell your book with any other, you have to be exclusive to Amazon if you do that. So don't obviously do that. It does make up the bulk of my sales, but I wanted to have the freedom to do whatever I wished. So you need to just go to Bowker or myidentifiers.com. The best thing to do is buy 10, because if you do an ebook or if you do like a second edition or whatever, like it's just best price is to just buy 10 at one time and get them through myidentifiers.com. Then comes step 4, which is about hiring a book designer. This guy, Najdan Manzik, I have worked with on my first and my second book, and I'm actually working with him right now because Amazon just came out with being able to do a hardcover, which is awesome because this has been a huge pain in the butt to figure out as a self-publisher how you can have a hardcover. It used to be a really big back-end system to get it done, and I never actually could figure it out. So this is where I kind of goofed up in round 1. I found that person, but I still was kind of tweaking with my manuscript. You can't do that. Like, your manuscript has to be dialed, done. You're not touching it. Okay. And not to say that I didn't, even then I still found things and asked him to go change them. But on the whole, you want to have it just completely dialed. And then you have that person create the files for both Ingram Spark, which is what sources books for like Barnes and Noble, Powell's books, any of your small bookstores, right? They're usually buying them through Ingram Spark. There are other providers, but that's what I'm using, and Amazon. So they're a little bit different formatting. So ask for the ebook file and the hardcover PDF, or the PDF that you would upload. So a book designer will know this, but that's something to keep in mind. So anyway, this was how that all worked out. I got my files. You can see it says Ingram here, KDP here, all ready to go. Then you need to design your book cover. And here's the thing. This is what makes timing such a pain in the butt with the book. You can get started on the creative content and ideas of your book cover, but you can't finalize it until you know how many pages are in your book, because the pages affect the width of the spine. So I first tried to just find someone on Upwork that is the Hideous Designs pictured on the right. And I'm a big advocate for failing fast. And I was just like, we're not anywhere close to this being a good cover, so I'm just going to call it a loss. I'm typically not a fan morally of using 99 designs, but I also was just so desperate for something better that I did decide to give it a try. And I literally got 99 designs. Like, actually, that's so many people submitted. So this is just a small screenshot of what those were looking like. One bit of advice I received early on was to just give everything like at least a 3-star and then give feedback. Like, I was very iterative. And I think because I was always in there giving feedback, I just kept generating more and more interest in it. Plus, I think book designers also like unicorns. So here, yeah, that's what those looked like. But as you can see, so I loved this upper left one with the gold kind of crinkled paper. I thought it looked cool. But because my boyfriend and I couldn't agree on what book cover was the best, I brought this to my email list and my kind of Facebook following of sorts and said, what book cover should we go with? And I let them vote. And my growing kind of email list that I was developing about, who wanted to be on my book launch team. And this is what they voted for. And I would never have selected this book cover. Like, no way. But it's what they liked. And I think that's super, super important, is that what you think will do well is probably not the book cover that your customer wants. So it is very strategic to ask for that feedback and let them choose. So obviously we tweaked it a little bit. So it actually had my company colors. I put in sort of these greens and such. This is what the second edition now looks like. I ended up working with a local artist, and she designed us kind of our own beautiful unicorn. We now use her on all our graphic materials. But it's funny because the whole concept of this unicorn that you see today, it started here with this really tacky, like, if you look at the horn on the horse, you guys, it's not even like made to look 3D. Like, it's just slapped on the behind the unicorn. Like, it's so bad. But this is where it all started. And I think a lot of times people get so hung up on brand being perfect and looking good and all of that. And it literally doesn't matter. It will come with time. I think a brand matures with the business. So this is what the cover looks like now on the second edition. Okay, so step 7 is building your launch team. And a lot of these tracks, if we were looking at a Gantt chart, they kind of move along in parallel. So obviously I had actually started sort of building a launch team the moment I started sharing I was writing a book and I have 5 days to do it. So the whole point of a launch team is that you have these advocates that are going to help you when this book goes live. And this is a really big deal. If your book doesn't have a strong start, Amazon has all sorts of weird algorithms that are changing all the time. But it's like, if it doesn't do well running right out the gate, it probably won't do well ever. So this is important. Plus, you want to leverage this. It's a very cool opportunity. So I broke down the book launch schedule into 5 weeks. We're going to run through these first 3 together. So week number 1 is, first of all, I want to back up. I talked about, if you look at week 4 is soft launch, and then week 5 is a public launch. I guess I'll read through these. So week 1 is book launch team. It's kind of onboarding everybody, asking them if they wanted to be on this team. Week 2, I'm giving them just an email update. Week 3, I provided the manuscript to them so they can read it ahead of time and be ready to leave a review. Okay, and then week 4, I did a soft launch and did a bunch of these, basically allowed them to get it for 99 cents so they could buy a copy, start leaving reviews, build some momentum. Week 5 was then the public launch, and the book is discounted and on a bunch of promotion sites. That was edition 1's game plan. So the point is, you want those, basically the soft launch is just really important for building your momentum. It doesn't do well for you to have 50 people buy a book on day 1 and then never buy it again. Like it needs to like have a good start, but be this generally building crescendo. So that's why it's kind of nice to sort of peter out your interest before you let them tell their friends and help you post and promote it. So here's what week 1 looked like: forming your book launch team. You're going to brainstorm a list of names. Obviously I didn't have a big email list when I launched this book. I probably had like 1,500 people on it, and I'm not even sure it was a very good quality list. So I went through literally every LinkedIn contact I've ever had ever and asked them if they'd want to be on my book launch team, right? And how I did it was interesting. I didn't say, do you want to be on my book launch team? Because most people don't know what that means, and their knee-jerk response will be to say no if they don't know what's involved. So I said, would you like to learn what's involved in being on my book launch team? Everyone will say yes to that. So then I just collected their emails, and then I sent out an email saying, okay, here's the deal. If you want to be on this, complete this Google form, which is basically, this is a quick screen grab of what that email looked like. Hey there, I am writing to invite you to join my book launch team. This is what it's about. Here is the commitment. First, why have a launch team? And I describe it. Here's my ask of you. Read the book, or at least part of it. I'll provide a free digital copy, provide a book review on Amazon, like I'm making it very explicit. Obviously, you also want reviews on Barnes and Noble, elsewhere, etc. But that's just easy. So I just said that. Share info about it, etc. And then what you can expect from me. And I list out all of these benefits that they got, which was pretty huge. I even gave them access to my new online course that I was going to build for $1, right? Like they could, if you're on my book launch team and you left a freaking review, you can have what is now a $3,000 course for $1, right? So it was a very good deal for people in my early days. What you give away is a big part of how sexy and fun this is going to be for people. And I just think wherever you can be excessively generous, do it, because it is asking people to actually take time to read a book and leave you a review in a timely way. So this is what in edition 1 that looked like to give them support. Edition 2, we did things a little bit differently. I ended up raffling off a 3-night stay at our Geeks in the Woods property in Valdez, Alaska, and gave a $500 travel voucher. And I gave a free year membership to the Grant Writing Unicorn Collective. So there was like some really cool prizes on the line here. And that really drummed up a lot of interest. Oh, and some super cool unicorn swag, including this very awesome custom designed water bottle. If you all are looking for a really cool place to design stuff like this, Contrado, it's out of the UK. Amazing. That's cool. Sweatshirts, scarves, everything. Okay, so they had a Google survey in that email to complete to express their interest. This also allows you to consolidate in a nice functional Google Sheet form your contact list for this book launch team. So I said, what's your name, email? Can you commit to reading the book or at least a portion of it and writing a review? And do you have any other ideas for promoting the book? So that is what that looked like. I think here I'll just open it up real quick. I think this was this was the new version. And I put in the body of this survey all of the information that they needed as well, because sometimes we actually also ran a Google or a Facebook ad to sign up for this. And so I wanted to give them the context that they would have. And I had 235 people join to be on the book launch team. So that's awesome. And that seems like a lot probably, right? But I actually was a little disappointed in that number because I had 100 people on my first launch. And then, it was 2 years later and I actually had like a growing business and stuff. So I thought I would have more people on it, but I think the quality of the people on the team were better. I had a lot of like friends and family support in the first round, which doesn't usually actually help, the Amazon algorithms know who you are. So when you are preparing your book launch team, I want you to strive to have 100 people on the team. So go through everyone you can think of to get this list. You want 100 people fired up, right? You want at least a 30-day window to kind of drum up the enthusiasm and the interest and the executing the communication to when they, start leaving a review. My second book took a little longer because I was not practical and had hip surgery and then thought I would just, bust out a book. And that did not go well for me. So I ended up having to delay it. And it ended up being maybe a blessing in disguise because everyone on the book launch team was so supportive. They were like, do it. Like it almost was better for saying like, I'm going to role model what taking rest really looks like and not being so crazy hard charging about this. And I will roll this book out when I'm ready and we're all ready to do it. You have extra time to read. And that went over really well. So I originally in the first edition had tried to have a Facebook group to communicate book launch updates. That did not work well. And I don't recommend doing it. Stick with email for your communication. Week 2 is now all about engaging this team. So I used yet another mail merge to manage communication because it looks like it's coming right from your Google. No one will know that it's not out of ConvertKit or anything like that. It looks super personalized. So you can use whatever you want, but that was nice for edition 1, how to handle that. And then I recommend you send at least 1 email per week with updates. And ideally you are blending in opportunities for engagement. Pick the book cover, pick the book title, pick, whatever. What should we do for a swag or a raffle? Or how should we drum up ideas for this, right? Like there's literally an infinite number of things you can ask their feedback on. Okay, so we're going to come back to step 7. Like I said, there's a lot of parallel tracks. In the meantime, you're also in the back end thinking about sort of the structural pieces that go into your book. So you're going to need a book title, the categories your book will be listed in, the keywords that you'd like to be found for, a book description, how are you going to price your book, and what are we dealing with for competition? So determining your book title, you want to research what has high search volume, but yet is also catchy and aspirational. How to write a grant is a decently high search term. Become a grant writing unicorn, aspirational. Keep in mind, unicorn was not my idea. In fact, here is the 6 ideas that I had come up with. One of them was, it wasn't even become a grant writing unicorn, it's become, it was in no time, but mine was like, make it rain, how to write a grant. Mine were so boring, a functional guide. So just recognize that like this is a big part of the process being really fun as well, is involving other people on your book title ideas, because they're going to help you land on the right character. Okay, so one of the coolest things you can use is this tool called My Publisher Rocket, and I'm actually going to pull it up and let's do this as a group. So who has a book it was a book that they have a topic idea. I was kind of missing the chat. Let's see. Does anyone have a book they want to like go through this with me? Maybe Monica, do we want to do yours on grief and mental health? That could be an interesting one. If you're there. Or Rosario, shall we do yours too? Because I know a little bit about yours.
Well, the chapter I wrote is in Hispanic Star Rising, the New Face of Power.
Okay, sweet. So what would be a keyword for someone that might find that book?
Hispanics,
Okay.
role models, but I think
Let's
Hispanic.
see what we find. Okay, so, okay, and no problem, Monica. I'm also in a decently loud place, so all good. Okay, so Hispanic authors, Hispanic. So we can go, I'm gonna hit this, have it look it up, research this. So this is sort of a quick catch on the data here. So Hispanic authors, it's considered pretty low competition, that search term. It has 1,200 searches, but still considers this in the red. And the monthly earnings are around 2,800 for that. So maybe see if there's any other ones, Hispanic books for adults. That could be an interesting one. So what's interesting is you can just come in here and do a little bit of research on the keywords to see like, cool, I want something that's low competition, but good high search volume. And I want to know that there's some pretty good earnings around that. So I'll show you what grant writing is for comparison. So grant writing, and look, grant writing unicorn is literally a search term now because people search it. Okay, so it's decently competitive now, even though it wasn't even a thing that existed 4 years ago. Yeah, it makes about $2,000 a month, this search term. And this is showing you kind of like the average price of a book in this range, etc. So this gives you at least ways to start doing your keyword research. I think competition analyzer is the really, really fun part. I'm going to do mine first, and then let's search one of yours. Why are you being weird? Try a new search. Okay. Well, this is a good sign. Okay, so this is my #1 competitor, this top one. There's so much amazing data in here. So this tells you the price of their book, their daily sales, and their monthly sales. Like, this is insane information, is it not? So here you can see that this book, the only grant writing book you'll ever need, is the top seller. The complete book of grant writing is the second one. Who's third right now? Ooh, it might be us. That would be cool. Oh, it's not. It's this grant writing for dummies. I'm working so hard to unseat one of the top 3, and it's a journey. Then the other thing is this number right here. This is something you will be tracking, Amazon bestseller rank. So this is literally like what's #1, 2, 3, and you can go and see how well a book is ranking. So this book is consistently about like 15, 16,000. That's bestseller. And I'm oscillating all over the place from 30,000 to 90,000. So we've been trying to like really pump that up to get it to where we can take over 3. And I'll show you why in a moment. But let's look up another competition. So what do you think would be, I don't know, should we search to see what Hispanic authors comes up with, or does, I don't know if there's a different term you'd want to look up.
Or Hispanic or role models. I don't know.
What would you want me to search?
Let's write for Hispanic entrepreneurs.
Mm.
Maybe.
See if I can spell entrepreneur. I wonder if it thinks it's too specific.
That idea from by Monica is very good. Try Latin author.
Oh, Latina, what? Let's see.
Latin author.
Latin author. Oh my gosh, terrible. Latin vocabulary. That's not what we want. Latina empowerment through leadership, though. This actually could be that would be an example of good competition. Mindful stories for inspiring women. So she's not making crazy good money on this book, right? It's $240 a month or so, but it still would be interesting because right now you could go drill into, well, what categories is she listed under? So this would be a place to go is, okay, go look up Hispanic as a category, go see who's performing in the top 20. And that's who you'd want to study. You know, who's ranking where that you want to rank for those books. So obviously you'd have to do a little bit more experimenting to find it, but this would help inform the strategy for your title and your cover. Because you can even go see, okay, well, what do those covers look like that are in the top 20 bestsellers for that category? So the reason I bring this up, and I'll just pull up Amazon real quick to show you, this is a really fun little party trick that you all can do. I think this is my old book. Wrong one. Try this one. So when you scroll, so this is part of the problem. Have you ever noticed Amazon has this thing where it recommends 2 other products to buy? This is why the top three usually have the most book sales. Like, it's kind of crazy that my book is doing as well as it is. It's in 4th because usually top 3 just like pulls away from the competition because people just hit this add 3 all to cart, check out, boom, they're done, right? So you do want to be in the top 3. That's your goal. Okay, and then this is what you'll come down to, and start paying attention to this when you even look at a book that you're considering to buy in general. Go look at how it's ranked. And if it's just super low ranking, then it's probably not a stellar book and you might not want to get it. So it is helpful to go see, like, this is how I size up how my competition is doing at any time, is going and looking at that. Is that making sense for everybody? Just some things to look at. Categories. So you get to have, I'm going to put everybody in camera mode again so I can see you. Okay. When you upload your book into KDP, you can have 2 categories, but you can actually have 10 categories, but you have to email Amazon and say, I would like to be listed in these other categories, which I still have not done for my second book for some weird reason. Need to do it. So here's what I did for the first edition. This is literally the email copy. You know, I would like to be added to these other categories for the ebook and the paperback. They're actually different categories for Kindle and book. So I wanted to, you know, be able to rank well in some that maybe are a little bit more of a stretch, right? And here's why, you'll see in a moment. But this is a sample email. I've researched an additional 8 categories. Here's the details. Here's my ASIN, which is basically the unique identifier in Amazon, and the book title. Very easy. Okay, this Kindlepreneur with Dave Chesson, this man is amazing, and I hope he has all the success in the world that he could ever ask for, because he gives away so much stuff for free. So he built that rocket, that tool I just showed you, that little bit of software. That was like $50. I think it's more expensive now, but still, it's nothing. He also has this tool, like this book description generator tool. When you upload your description into Amazon, it actually has to be HTML coded, which most of us don't remember how to do. So this was the description of my first book. And so here's the description from the second book. It's a little bit shorter this time. And to get those emojis in there and the bold and the spaces, I put that text right into the generator, and then it would spit back the code for me. So little pro tip. This is what KDP looks like when you log in to upload your book. The cost of your book will vary based on the number of pages, and if you have any color. Avoid color. No color. Don't do it. You won't make any money. So just keep it simple. And if your book is like under $10, I think you get something higher. Like, how does this work? I forget, but basically the royalty split changes at the $10 mark. So you really do kind of want to experiment with the pricing to see kind of what that sweet spot is. But I brought the pricing down as low as possible. So I charged $4.86 for the book when I first launched, so everyone could get a copy. And it meant I made no money on it. That's just the cost of the book and Amazon making their cut. But that's a nice way to reward your book launch team. Then you can and must do this get a copy of the book sent to you before you tell everybody that you're going to launch the book, which I didn't do on the second edition. I just went full send and didn't even have a copy. My customers are getting copies before me, which is a little bit bold, but I just wanted to get it done. So anyway, the importance of doing this is that you will find all sorts of mistakes that have happened. So I get my book and I had ordered, like, first round looked good, but the font was super small. Like, you can't read it from here. So I had my boyfriend help me make it bigger. Well, we made it bigger, but on the back cover, you know, when you're designing something, if you make something bigger, sometimes it just falls out of view, like out of the paragraph line, like you just don't see the text. Well, that's what happened. So it was like an incomplete sentence on the back of a cover from someone that's teaching writing, you know, cannot get worse than that. So I was all excited and I ordered like 50 books. And I was obviously crushed when I saw this had happened. So my boyfriend and his twin brother actually drew on them and made up new sentences and made it kind of like this hilarious prank. And it was a good way to laugh at the situation because you will make mistakes. Hopefully I'm helping you from making the dumb ones I did, but you get the idea that it's not always perfect, right? Oh yeah, I'm happy to share all my errors. It's like the story of my life. Way too honest about the things that don't work. Okay, I just made the chat box way too big. Now I can't see my screen. Okay, so now we're back to book launch team. Now we're in the final push. So you've already got your book uploaded into KDP, right? You're ready to rock and roll. Okay, now it's time to launch this bad boy. So, well, thank you for the kind words of affirmation. I really appreciate that, everybody. I'm glad you're getting a lot of value. Okay, so soft launch time. Discount your book as cheap as it possibly can be for a 1-week window. Notify your book launch team that they can leave reviews. Provide little gifts or a little video of how to leave a review because people get stuck on the darndest of things. Tell them they can't tell anyone yet. It's kind of like, imagine you've got a thoroughbred team and you're just like pulling them back because at this point they actually want to tell people and you're telling them not to. So it makes them want to tell people. You know what I mean? Like there's sort of a little bit of psychology in there that I didn't even realize I was using. Okay, look, and then you screen grab literally every step of this journey. So like I got my first rating and I took a screen grab. You get, you know what I mean? Like you're just going to capture this as it's going and building momentum. So for example, here are all these little screenshots from my phone of like, wow, #1 new release in government accounting, #1 new release in crowdfunding, which were kind of dumb categories to put myself in. But I did that. So there really weren't a lot, 10 categories that seemed obvious, but I'm tracking it and I'm putting in this Google Doc, like launch day, the 30th, day 1 stealth launch. Cool. We've already reached #1 new release in this one. Now we have 11 reviews. Like I was tracking all of this progress because you will forget and lose track of it. And it makes really nice way to share email updates to your book launch team and build that FOMO that they haven't left their review yet. Then day 3 of stealth launch, this was my proudest moment. I had beat out my #1 nemesis and was the #1 new release in nonprofit fundraising and grants. So whatever it is that you're actually really trying to win at, like the category you actually care about, this is the one where you really want to get a picture of it because you probably won't stay there, frankly, or maybe you'll get there from time to time, but you might not stay there consistently. And so it's nice to get that because that's a very useful graphic for marketing materials. Okay, so you're getting as many reviews as you possibly, oops, got a little click happy, as you possibly can. And this is signaling to Amazon, this book is up and coming, blah, blah, blah. And by the way, I just went through this process with Amazon and then took it to Ingram Spark. I think there's some value in the Ingram Spark, like a book. This is the thing that's kind of ironic is that everyone hates Amazon, but the bookstores will actually see how the book is doing on Amazon before they buy the book. So there's a lot of value in actually building that momentum first before you then send the independent booksellers to your book. Okay, so that with the first book, I spent like $5,000 on this course about how to self-publish. And it was probably a waste of money because frankly, I was figuring everything out myself anyway. And I think they were giving advice on things that were just like very vanity metrics that didn't really matter. So there you go. You all are getting way more than the $5,000 that I spent. But one of the things that they had really encouraged was putting your site on, or your book on, a promotion site. So there's all of these websites online where people that love to read get notified when that book is 99 cents or free. But the problem is that random person that's on a cheap book list is probably not your customer. So even though you'll get this jolt of sales momentarily, right? Like a bunch of people buying your book for 99 cents, like it will crash and come off, right? But whatever, I did try it. And it depends on what book you do. I think if you're writing a book that's fiction or more fun, more of a story, then I think this works. If you're doing a nonfiction book, I don't think it works very well. So I had a budget of $3,000 and I have that list available here. And you can also go to Kindlepreneur and just search, sites to promote free on Amazon, and this will help. But here's the thing, the KDP sales dashboard, and I'm happy if we have time, if you all want to go in there and see what it looks like, only goes back 3 or 6 months. So I knew what day I ran which promo because I put it in my Google Calendar. But by the time I finally got around to checking how it did, the data was lost. So it was like a complete waste to have spent $300, not know actually which sites did well and which sites didn't do well. So that was dumb. So I ended up ran a second book promotion push last July and then tracked it. And then I could know exactly my ROI. Spent $75, had 50 books downloaded, I could calculate it. So be sure if you're going to go the book promo route, like actually know exactly what day you're doing a different website. So do a promo site on a different day. Don't you stack it all on one because you want to know how each performs. Okay, this was also genius. People that post the Amazon link does not do well on Facebook. Facebook doesn't like to just link you out to an Amazon. So I found what I ended up doing is taking screenshots of people's review, putting it in Canva on this little template, how to write a grant book review, went and swiped their headshot from wherever on the internet I could find it. And then I would send it to them. And I thought this was risky at the time. I thought this is so bold. I'm like literally making them a review card and asking them to post it on their Facebook. And I didn't know how well that would go. They loved it. People were asking me to make them one if I hadn't made them one, because sometimes people use very weird names that aren't their names to leave a review, and I didn't know who they were. So this actually worked out really, really well the first time. Didn't work out as well the second time, and I don't know why, but I think it's still a super effective method, and it doesn't take you that long. Okay, so then public launch for edition 2. So this would have been June. I skipped the book site promos. We tried instead to do this Instagram TikTok dance. But here's the crazy thing. We'd found a super popular song that was trending. We'd come up with dance moves for it. I still didn't have my actual paperback, so I'm dancing with an ebook Kindle, which is totally stupid. You need a real book. And then we actually were listening to the words. We've got the email all ready to go to get everyone to do this dance and tag us. And it was so freaking racist. And when we actually listened to the words, like you can't unhear that. And at that point we realized like, well, we're not going to use this song to promote our book because this is completely messed up. So we like scrambled and found a different song, but it wasn't like a trending song. Right. And like, we just never recovered from that. And Instagram wasn't happy that we'd taken the one down that actually was doing pretty well. So just a little dumb, like couldn't have seen that coming, but we just stood in our integrity and didn't use it. Then we gave away very cool swag, like this water bottle, and we did run Facebook ads. So that worked out really well. We got still had some pretty fun TikTok videos from our customers. This is Bryce in a big pink shirt and some swag from his daughter. But this was fun, and it's actually still just been useful in other materials. We've been able to reuse that. And that was cool because it kind of showed off a bunch of our students. So do what's true to your soul and heart. any, you have to just experiment. We did run a bunch of ads. My business partner is really the ad genius in our relationship. We wouldn't have ads if I was in charge. So we had 4 ads to warm audiences. We ran 2 ads to a cold audience. We ran ads to invite them to the book launch team. And then the next set was about promoting. So here's a screenshot, and I have a couple more of what the actual copy looked like, just so you can see it. So here's some quick screen, like they're pretty long form ads or whatever, right? But we found that those did really, really well. So there you have it. I even made that little cheesy video that I just made editing on the plane because it was in Apple iMovie or whatever. We just even ran that as an ad. It was 1-minute video, right? This really cheesy photo where I'm reading through the old book at a coffee shop and like writing up how I'm going to edit it, right? So it was very, very casual. And the more casual I found, frankly, the better. So here's the stats on that. If you were curious how those ads did. It helps that we have a unicorn now for a mascot because you can do all sorts of dumb things with a unicorn on the internet. And pretty good cost per click. And most people that did make it over there did end up buying the book because it makes it pretty easy. Here was another quick grab from the ad, was super duper long. So I just went and got the copy. This was where I ended up taking the book of the first edition, going into our local radio station and reading it and turning it into an audiobook. I really intended to make it an Audible, but I never actually did get around to it. So we ended up just putting it on a Spotify podcast and had a landing page for this so that people could go get the audiobook as like a lead magnet. Because actually in the front of the book, go look at my first edition and you all can see this, but I actually have it where it says, hey, in appreciation for you getting this book, we're giving you the free audiobook, which was actually, if someone is too cheap to even buy the book, they're going to see that. They'll then go to the website. Still, I'll get their email out of the deal and they get it for free, right? This time I did it, a free grant writing course instead of the audiobook, because this one I actually want to turn into an actual audiobook. Okay, so here's a couple more ads that were ran around promoting it, the book. So, Canva is a girl's best friend, right? And unicorn costumes. Okay, and then this was the final celebration email of the first edition anyway. Timo, Extremo, it's time for a big virtual team toast. This was a huge hit. We hit #1 bestseller in all of these categories. There's that screenshot of it as #1. Here's the rest of the email. I just shared like all of these specifics about how it went. I'm like, it's still not too late. You can leave a review. I mean, I had 75 reviews on that. Oh no, I guess I flatlined at 56 and I wanted to get to 75. So just kind of brought people through the journey and then also close it so that they know when there is an end to the effort before you then go back to them. I definitely make a point of asking for reviews about 4 times a year. Here's the rest of that email, including a picture of a unicorn with a huge bottle of champagne. Okay. Week 6, in addition to, this time I was willing to spend a little bit more money to express my gratitude. So we ended up designing these beautiful thank you cards in Canva, included a sticker, a temporary tattoo, and the Canva card had the thank you, like thank you for being on our book review team. So how we tracked that was when someone left a review, we told them to email us so we could actually tag them in ConvertKit as left a review. And we also just monitored the Amazon reviews where we could recognize the name. And that was awesome. It was just a really lovely way to express gratitude and actually get something physical in the mail. As a result of that, that went over really, really well. Okay, so we already talked about this. This is how I produced the free audiobook. This time I'm going to do Audible because none of my competitors have an Audible. So I think this is going to really help us maybe unseat one of those and get into the top 3. And also none of our competitors have a hardcover right now. So we'll also have that. But this is definitely something all of you can do. Like just go down to your local radio station, pay a pretty nominal fee, have a blast, record your book, and get some extra content out of it. So this is an example of what that landing page looked like. so they could listen to the book. Here's the podcast that we're actually going to turn into a real podcast now because people do listen to this. So here in a couple weeks, I'm actually going to rebrand this. So it's not just the book, and it'll actually be an actual podcast, which I resisted for a long time, but I'm ready to now. Okay. There was that thing I wanted to show you. Is there interest in going and seeing KDP in the background, or do we want to cover some questions? You all are welcome to unmute yourself. We're a pretty small team.
Well, maybe I will say thank you. I learned a lot. Now I know that I need to plan better if I want to start.
Yeah,
no,
it's a lot of moving parts.
Super useful information, practical, actionable. And I really learned a lot. Thank you.
Yay, good. I'm so happy. Cool. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, because we have just a few minutes. If y'all have questions, you're welcome to unmute yourself or ask. And yeah, I'm happy to pay this information forward. I thought you might want to see what it actually looks like behind the scenes. If I can actually remember my password, that could be the problem. Okay. So this is what KDP looks like in the background. This hardcover is in beta. That's what I'm working on right now. So exciting. So like even pricing I've been experimenting with, and like I actually want to bring the price back up. So we could just go and do that right now together. So I'm going to go to edit ebook pricing. This is something that can feel a little overwhelming when you're setting up your book, going through all of these steps. But the other thing I would say too is even if you don't think you want to do a hardcover right away, find out the sizes of the hardcover and design your book to that size. I actually needed to just go pay the designer again because my paperback is 5 inches wide and I think a hardcover 6, and it would look weird with that much margin. So it's just something to keep in mind that it's nice if you get your sizing right so that it can work across all platforms. Okay. So this will show you like, this is my 35% royalty. So if the book is priced at $18.69, I'm getting $7 for every book. I used to have the book priced quite a bit higher. I'm going to go back up to, I don't know, let's make it $22.69. And we can experiment here and I'll automatically update it for abroad. And now I'll make about $8 for a book. So I'm going to go ahead and say, cool, publish this. So like literally that's how easy it is to tinker. This is the joy of self-publishing, right? Probably should oops, I didn't mean to make the Kindle that expensive though. I meant to do that for the paperback. I will fix that when we're off the call because that's why you shouldn't change pricing when you're on the phone. But I wanted to show it to all of you. Do I do Kindle Unlimited? Isn't Kindle Unlimited is that when you can share, they can share it with other people, or is that like, that's the program where it's like Kindle has its own promotion? I think it's the latter.
Yeah, it's the one where like, if you subscribe to Kindle Unlimited, you can read all of the books that have been put there for free.
I do not. And I think it's because you have to be exclusive.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be able to be on Ingram Spark because then, and honestly, I make the bulk of my money on Amazon. I don't know exactly what it's going to pan out to being, but I've made about, at least when I started this last April, it had been a year and a half and I'd made $10,000 on a book. Mm-hmm. So now with 2 books, that'll help too. But yeah, you don't want to be exclusive because also just the SEO benefit is huge. So when someone searches my name and grant writing, it comes up in Barnes and Noble, Powell's Books, all these like indie bookstores. So I'm like slotting more spots than if it was only just coming up on Amazon.
That's a really good point. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ingram Spark sucks too. And that's the bummer, is like you want them to be better because they're trying to take down Amazon. I know there is one other provider out there, but there's no visibility, no reporting. Like here we can see literally how many books I've sold in the last month. So you can see, I guess, Yeah, it shipped 13 paperback. So paperback was 13 on that day. So you can see how many books I've sold. Like, it's nice and visible. You don't see any of this on Ingram Spark. You get a PDF telling you how much money you've made once a month, and that's it. So, whatever, but it still probably makes up. So I guess there it is. Royalties earned. So 1,200, so it's cool because it does end up, if you do a book that supports your business, it ends up being like a nice side stream of income you forget about. I didn't even, I think about my revenue from my course. I forget about revenue from a book. So it is cool. And we're running some ads too on Amazon. That's like its own conversation. But that part's nice in that you kind of start actually bringing in different revenue streams. And that's a gift that keeps on giving. All right. Thank you. I think that's all I have to share, but I'm happy to field any other questions.
That was a great, I feel like, round out to this whole thing. This was fantastic. I totally agree with the comments about this just being like lighthearted, super real, giving us a look behind the curtain of what it takes to publish a book, and how it is very possible to do this in 7 days, which, walking into this, I was like, I don't know about this. 7 days seems awfully fast. So thank you so much for sharing your process for both books. I think that was super helpful to see like round 1 and round 2, and just giving us all your tips and tricks. This was just so great, and we really appreciate it. We're so grateful for you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.